Welcome to the University of St. Mary. I want to introduce you to the mission of USM and also to the culture that flows from that. What you're going to find here is a vibrant, close-knit spirit, a spirit that has deep roots and a spirit that bears good fruit. St. Mary is all about promoting human flourishing in every way, and you can hear that in the mission statement. The University of St. Mary educates students of diverse backgrounds to realize their God-given potential and prepares them for values-centered lives and careers that contribute to the well-being of our global society. Let's begin with the fact that St. Mary is a Catholic university. Catholic. That means according to the whole, for the whole person, universal, inclusive. So what implications does that hold for what we're talking about tonight? Author William Buckley, in his book, The Catholic University Promise and Project, says this: the fundamental proposition that grounds the Catholic University is that the academic and the religious are intrinsically related. They form an inherent unity, that one is incomplete without the other. Knowledge, faith, nature, supernatural, secular, sacred, these are not separate from one another in Catholicism. They come together. All comes from God and all is sacred. All, to some extent, shows us something of God. And all comes together to promote human flourishing. Let's see how the mission statement spells that out for St. Mary. First of all, USM educates students of diverse backgrounds. I hope you've already discovered that. Buckley puts it this way: the Catholic identity of the university is not to counter or exclude the fundamental humane and religious values of other traditions, but to support and endorse their presence. He continues, the Jew and the Protestant and the secular humanist should find in this Catholic academic community a greater respect and encouragement for so much that they hold dear than they would find at a secular university. In other words, because USM is Catholic, all faiths and non-faiths must feel at home here. Diversity of religious insight is welcome, as is diversity of culture and gifts and all kinds of diversity that you might come up with. To not have the opportunity to see the world through different lenses of people who are different from you is to be deprived. It's to see a truncated view of God's amazing works that shine forth in so many ways. This is a place to stretch and grow. So, welcome everybody. Next, USM educates students to realize their God-given potential. But USM is a university with very high academic and values standards. This is a choice time for intellectual growth and stimulation. No sliding by with the bare minimum. You're missing everything if you do that. Don't do it. But exploration of ideas calls for a safe environment, and this includes psychological safety. USM is and has always been a place where people feel at home and welcomed and close-knit and valued. It needs to stay that way, and you have a responsibility with that to make sure that it stays like that as you explore knowledge. From the mission statement again, USM prepares them for value-centered lives and careers. Education is so much more than knowledge. The academic is not complete without that openness to the God quest, however that looks for each student. The big questions of existence itself, of meaning, of being, these are ultimately religious questions. My first field was physics, and it was a desire to grasp something of that very stuff of creation that led me back to the awe and the amazement that is religious. All study is a response by different paths to those ultimate questions of meaning, and they will arise as you work with your studies. That doesn't mean you're going to be engaging in God talk with every discussion, but it does mean that those discussions are going to take place within the values, the purpose, the ultimate meaning of life and of those studies themselves. This, by the way, is known as the Catholic intellectual tradition. What that means is simply this: there is no quarrel between faith and reason. After all, it's God's world, it's God's knowledge, it's God that we seek in the God quest. Each enhances the other, faith and reason. Reason expands as you study, and with it, faith also stretches and grows. Our relationship with God is not static. Sometimes that gets a bit difficult. I'll tell you a story. I was teaching inner city high school at one point, and it was time to teach evolution. And I knew that most of my students came from very fundamentalist churches. But when they got to college and they began to look at some of what nature tells us, that they would see so many evidences of evolution and they might question and lose their faith. And they need their faith. So I put on the board the words, God is truth. And I say to you also, never be afraid of exploring truth. It can only lead to God, because ultimately it's God's world we're exploring. Grasp the knowledge that you're working with. Explore it, question it, challenge it. Make the most of your opportunity to be a student. It may not happen again. It may not happen for a long time. And the final challenge of the mission statement: lives and careers that contribute to the well-being of our global society. How's that for sitting something on your shoulders, huh? I hope that sometime you'll have the opportunity to learn a little bit about a very interesting fellow named Vincent de Paul, who lived in 16th century France. Our roots and our spirit trace back to him, and he's the one who made an oversized contribution to the well-being of our global society. His work still touches us today. He saw needs, he addressed them. He saw the holy in everybody, and most especially in those who were poor and disenfranchised. Ultimately, I'm not here to save my soul. That's not my purpose in life. That's not what life is all about, to take care of me. I'm here to make a difference in the world, however small that may be. And it's a world worth making a difference for. In Catholicism, all comes from God, and all is sacred. All is sacred. All creation at its core is good. All is revelatory of God. It's a holy universe that we inhabit. It's God's universe. Catholicism lives out of a basic optimism that all of creation, our universe, is skewed to our benefit. We live in a gracious world. It needs us, though. Let's love it and let's heal it. As poet Mary Oliver puts it, my work is loving the world. Love that. In summary, quoting from Dr. Brian Hughes in the theology department, vitality of exchange, critical thinking, attention to the whole, openness to ultimate meaning must mark a Catholic university as it seeks to explore and celebrate whatever is of human purpose, of meaning, of life, of flourishing. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross expressed the same from her work of many years with people who had undergone near-death experiences. She began to ask them after a while, since you have had a near-death experience and looked back over your life, what would you have done differently? The answers were very consistent. I would have loved more, and I would have learned more. So go to it.